The number one reason that cohabitating couples in the US don't have as much sex as they want is that they're tired. Number one reason they say, I'm just too tired, right? I'm sure that everyone can relate to that. Like, how many times have you wanted to have sex, but by the time you get in bed, it's 9:30, you have to get up at 6 a.m. You're like, oh, honey, I love you, but good night. And so if you did Ziva at like 4:30 p.m., 15 minutes, giving your body rest that's 5 times deeper than sleep. That's the equivalent of over an hour-long nap. So imagine taking an hour-long nap at 5 p.m. You're going to have more gas in the tank by the time it comes around for sexy time. Or, even in the morning, a lot of us have like a huge cortisol spike in the morning, which is normal and natural. But if you are prone to anxiety and then you wake up in the morning and your cortisol spikes, even though your sex drive might be highest in the morning, now you're like spinning and in your head and super stressed. Now, interestingly, if women's cortisol levels are too high, they become physically incapable of orgasm. And if men's adrenaline levels are too high, it constricts the vascular system and they become incapable of erection. So this isn't just about like chakras and energy and accessing God. I mean, all of that stuff happens too, but this is like quite literally, if you are too stressed, you won't be able to get an erection or you won't be able to have an orgasm. And I hear this time and time again. So many women who are like, I had my first orgasm the week after the course. I was able to orgasm vaginally after I started this training.
Welcome my guest, Emily Fletcher. Emily is the founder of Ziva Meditation and the leading expert in meditation for performance. She has taught over 40,000 people in the skill of meditation. She is an international speaker and author. Her best-selling book, Stress Less, Accomplish More, debuted as number 7 out of all the books on Amazon and has been translated into 12 languages. The New York Times, Good Morning America, The Today Show, Vogue, and ABC have all featured Emily's work. She's been named one of the top 100 women in wellness to watch and has spoken at Apple, Google, Harvard Business School, and so much more. Ziva graduates include Oscar, Grammy, and Emmy Award winners, Navy SEALs, and NBA players. In 2021, she launched zivaKIDS, the first meditation course of its kind for kids age 4 to 14. The Ziva Technique is a powerful combination of mindfulness, meditation, and manifesting, designed to help you get better at life, not meditation. All right, I want to welcome to the show Emily Fletcher. It is such an honor to have you on. As I was mentioning before, that I've been wanting to have you on for such a long time because I've had a lot of people come on the show to talk about meditation, but I know you speak little differently about meditation. And also so many people have taken your technique around the world. I think 40,000 people at least right now, which is quite incredible. So welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Yeah. We're trying to figure it out somewhere between 40 and 45. And I'm like, does it matter?
Doesn't matter anymore, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think it does. Cause I want to get to the millions, right? Like we got 8 billion stressed out people on the planet right now. So I'd like to be talking in millions instead of thousands, but yeah, I'm proud of every single person who has moved from what I call team stress to team bliss.
Oh, I love that. Yes. So let's talk about your story. How did you get so passionate about meditation? What has been like, how did you really uncover it and what drove you to teach this to others?
Well, I think I was deep in the I'll be happy when syndrome, thinking that, well, once I accomplish my big dream of being on Broadway, then I will be happy. And then I got that dream at 22, which is a gift to do that at such a young age. But then I was the saddest I'd ever been. So I just thought next show, next boyfriend, next zero, next agent. And I did that for a decade. And then my last show, I ended up having severe anxiety, insomnia, going gray. I was understudying 3 of the leads in a chorus line. So long story short, I ended up finding meditation. It cured my insomnia on the first day. I did not get sick for 8.5 years. I stopped going gray. I started enjoying my job again. And I was just like, why is everyone not doing this? So I left Broadway. I went to India. I trained for 3 years to be a teacher. And then since graduating, have taught, somewhere between 40 and 45,000 people how to do this thing on their own, which is different. It's not an app. I'm not guiding you through. I'm giving you the keys to the car and the driving instructions so that you have these life-changing cellular healing tools to take with you for life. And then, things have really shifted in the past few years. Like, I was just teaching meditation for the first 6 years of my career, and then developed the Ziva Technique in 2017. And that is a combination of a trifecta of mindfulness, meditation, and manifesting. And then, COVID hit and the whole world changed and got a lot more stressed. I just was reading that we had the most drug overdoses in US history last year.
That's so
Most
sad.
drug overdoses in US history last year. And 2021 was reported to be the saddest year on record. And I'm like, not on my watch. Not on my watch. This is not the world that I want to hand on to my child. This is not the world that I selfishly want to live in. It's not the world that I want for you or for anybody listening. And so it's like, okay, if we're going to be dealing with deeper and more intense fear than we've ever faced before, we're going to need a more powerful antidote. And so it seems that nature is calling on me to do what I did for meditation, but now to do it with sacred sexuality. Because in the last year and a half, nature's just giving me world-class leaders, world-class teachers, like a makeshift PhD in Tantra and sacred sexuality. And it feels like, sure, it's fun for me personally, but it's also, it feels bigger than that. And I'd say that my superpower is taking esoteric concepts and communicating them in a way that is both attractive and accessible to a mainstream audience. And sex is one of the most distorted, abused, traumatized, and perverted things that we have in our society. And it is simultaneously our most creative force. So it's like, if we don't unravel this knot of our most creative energy, how on earth are we expected to solve the massive challenges that we're facing as a species? And so I'm currently sort of dancing in and developing and figuring out what this new thing is that wants to be birthed right now.
How remarkable. Yeah, that's what I want to go deeper into, most definitely. But let's touch on the meditation and your technique to fully understand how it's different than other things that people have heard of, like TM or mindfulness meditation or guided meditation. So what is Viva meditation? And I know you said it was the three things: the mindfulness, the meditation, and manifestation. But what makes your technique unique in itself?
Yeah. So Ziva is actually a Sanskrit word that means bliss, and it's a Hebrew name that means one who is radiant or kind. Right. So since bliss, radiance, and kindness are beautiful side effects of meditation, I thought that Ziva would be a great name. And so, like I said, for the first 6 years of my career, I was just teaching meditation. And then I realized that people, the resistance to starting was too big. And then people would start and then stop. How many people do you know who've started meditation and then quit?
Yeah,
right.
So many people do. Yes.
Yeah. And so I'm like, and this was baffling to me. I was like, how on earth could you get the keys to the kingdom and then put them down? To be like, okay, I'm going to give you this thing that is going to give you access to literally everything you want: your own bliss, your own fulfillment, better sex, better sleep, stronger immune system, reversing your body age, increased dopamine and serotonin, less digestion issues, less anxiety, less depression. And you're like, oh, sorry, I'm too busy.
Right.
And I'm like, what the actual fuck? And so I started asking deeper questions of what's coming up for you? Why are you stopping really? When you say you're too busy, what's underneath that? And the reality is, no one's too busy to meditate. If Oprah has time to meditate, you have time to meditate. If Ray Dalio has time to meditate, you have time to meditate. If Tony Robbins has time to meditate, you have time to meditate. So no one is too busy. That's a lie. What people mean when they say that is one of two things. One, they're afraid of the feelings that come up when they're meditating and they're looking for a reason to avoid them. Or two, they're using a technique that isn't working. The return on investment is not worth it. And so with Ziva, we're not practicing monastic meditation. And what's monastic meditation? It's basically anytime you're trying to clear your mind, anytime you're trying to focus, anytime you are sitting still and you can't move, you're concentrating, it's requiring effort or discipline. These are monastic styles of meditation. And interestingly, all of the apps that are out there, not all, but the popular ones, these are derivations of monastic practices, meaning these are tools that were originally made for monks. And the thing is, if you're not a monk, if you have a job and you like having sex and you like being in society, meaning you don't want to be in a cave by yourself for the rest of your life, you ain't a monk. And if you're trying to do monk meditation, this is why you're going to think that it's hard. This is why you're likely not getting the return on time investment that you want, right? And then if you're not seeing a return on the investment of your most valuable resource, which is your time, then of course you don't have time, right? Like I would argue that no one has time to waste, obviously. I would even argue that no one has time to spend, but everyone has time to invest, provided that you are getting a return on that investment. And so with Ziva, like what makes it unique is that you're not just handling the stress from today, which is again what the apps are doing. That's what the mindfulness techniques are doing. Mindfulness is very good at handling your stress in the now. I'm stressed. Let me do 10 minutes of breathing or visualization. I feel better in the now. Great. Ziva, we start with that. We do the state change to start, but then we move into a very restful style of meditation that's giving your body rest that's 5 times deeper than sleep. And that is not insignificant, because when you give your body this profound rest, it starts to heal all that accumulated stress from your past, all that stuff that is stuck in your cellular memory, all those open windows on your brain computer, even all that stuff that you've inherited for at least 2, possibly 7 generations. We start to heal that stuff. And this is why Ziva creates such a huge increase in performance capabilities. You actually can increase your IQ by 12 points. You can reverse your body age by 15 years. I've had women say they've orgasmed for the first time. Their sex drive comes back. Migraines go away. They stop biting their nails. They don't need as much coffee. They drink less. And what's happening, these are all just symptoms of getting rid of the root cause, which is stress. And in not just treating the stress from today, but treating all that stress from the past. So with Ziva, we start with mindfulness, state change, right? Like, great, get you feeling good in the now. Then we drop into this deep, restful state where you're getting rest that's 5 times deeper than sleep. And then your brain, the right and left hemispheres of the brain start functioning in unison, which increases neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to change itself. You also start to strengthen something called the corpus callosum, which is quite literally the bridge between the 2 hemispheres of your brain. Now, this is important because we need access to both the critical and creative minds. We need access to the masculine and the feminine, to the past and future and the present moment at the same time, right? Like, these are attributes of high performers. And this is very hard to do when your brain is stressed. Then once you get into that beautiful state, then we end with the manifesting. Okay. Now, manifesting is simply consciously creating a life you love. It's you getting intentional about what you want your life to look like. And it's so outrageously simple, this technique, but the magic happens when you manifest after this style of meditation, right? When you've flooded your brain and body with dopamine and serotonin, when you've accessed source energy, and then you do the manifesting practice, people see that like the gap between their desires and those desires becoming manifest gets shorter and shorter, because they're like priming the pump. Like, if you just were like driving in traffic and totally stressed out and you're like, I want $1 million. I want $1 million. I need $1 million. And then I won't be in traffic anymore. It's like, that's a really ineffective way to manifest.
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. I mean, how intrigued are all we listening to you speak about this? Who doesn't want this? Like, give me more of this. Okay. So as people know of, like, transcendental meditation, for example, uses a mantra. So do you use something like a tool? Like, how does somebody get into this meditative state that you're talking about that is like 5 times greater than sleep, which is so remarkable?
Yeah. And you don't have a sleep hangover on the other side.
Yeah, tell us more about that.
Yeah. So okay, so let's talk about, you asked earlier, like, what's the difference between Ziva and like Headspace, or Ziva and TM, or something like that. So with Headspace and Calm and most of the apps out there, someone's guiding you through, right? So like, someone's guiding you through what I would call a visualization, not a meditation. Someone's guiding you through what I would call mindfulness, meaning anytime you're directing your focus, I would put that in the category of mindfulness, which is awesome. It's great. It's very good at handling your stress in the now. But at Ziva, that's just the appetizer, right? Like, that just preps us for this like beautiful surrender, deep healing thing. Now, people have also heard of TM or transcendental meditation. And a lot of people think that that's a style. It's actually the name of a company. It's a name of like a specific company, which is awesome. They've taught millions of people to meditate. And it's like, I'm Southern. So when in the South, if you want a soda, you just say, hey, do you have a can I have a Coke? And like, sure. What kind of Coke do you want? You want Coke or Sprite? It's like, or Tampax or Kleenex. These are brands that have become ubiquitous with a thing. Whereas TM is a name of a company, which is awesome. But they teach a specific style of meditation. Now with Ziva, as we talked about, there's 3 M's. There's mindfulness, meditation, and manifesting. And I find that the whole really is greater than the sum of its parts. If you wanted to learn TM, you would have to go to a center. You'd have to find a teacher in your town. You would have to learn face-to-face. You would have to go for a few hours a day over many days. They don't teach online. And with Ziva, not only is it the 3 M's, we also have like a beautiful online course, which is only 15 minutes a day for 15 days, but it's a full matriculation. Like you're learning each skill and you're starting to build them on top of each other so that by the time you graduate, you have these tools to take with you for life. Now, the meditation portion of Ziva is very restful. It is what you would call like a self-induced transcendence style of meditation, which is awesome. But again, I taught just that for 6 years. And I found that a lot of people quit. And now that I have the Ziva technique, it's like we've addressed those pain points. We've addressed those things. And now the adoption rate is so much higher because it's like, sure, like I want a successful business, but I don't care. Like my real motivating force is to make as many meditators as possible. So if 1 million people bought my course and then never meditated, I would consider that a giant failure. I might have a lot of cash, but then the world is still going to be equally as stressed, right? And if I wanted to make a bunch of money, I would have chosen a different profession. Like I want genuinely in my bones to for the planet to be as happy as possible for me selfishly, right? Like it sucks to be around stressed people. It doesn't make anybody feel good. Yeah. So that's why Ziva Technique is like to help people get past their pain points, to really adopt the practice so that they commit. And because I tend to work with like high achievers and high performers, like they want to see how they can hitch the meditation like up to their dreams. And this is true for everyone. Like we all want our dreams to come true, no matter how big or how small. And so it's like with Ziva, you're sort of linking that. Well, sure, I'm going to quote unquote, like waste my time for 15 minutes twice a day, but then I get to like manifest what I want to do in my relationship, or manifest my dream career, or manifest my dream house during that time.
Amazing. So do you use something to anchor in meditation, like a mantra, or like how does somebody get to that state? What can you give us a little teaser of it?
Yeah. So there's 3 different ways that people can learn the Ziva technique. One is through the book, which is called Stress Less, Accomplish More, where we do use a very gentle, like universal mantra. And then with Ziva Online, which is the online course, it like gets more powerful. It's hard to learn meditation from a book, to be quite honest, like even mine. And it's a great book, but it's more of like the science of why to meditate, versus with Ziva Online, you're taught a protocol on how to choose a mantra for you based on a very specific list of 3 mantras. And then when people learn with me live, if people want to work face-to-face with me, they have to start with the online course. But actually next week, June 10th, I have like 65 people flying to New York City from all around the world, and we're going to do an in-person training. And then people would receive their own mantra face-to-face from me.
Great. Okay.
And by the way, mantra is a very, that word has been hijacked by the wellness industry. And a lot of people think that it means affirmation, that they're like, oh, well, my mantra is I deserve love, or I am abundant. Those are beautiful. They are affirmations, right? Mantra is a Sanskrit word. Man means mind and trat means vehicle. And so with Ziva, we are using mind vehicles, or mind anchors, as you were saying, which are custom designed to de-excite the nervous system and to help you access a verifiable 4th state of consciousness, which is different than waking, sleeping, or dreaming.
Okay. Noted. So now I understand what that, like like I mentioned, it's kind of like an anchor. So you're not like focusing so much on the thoughts that are passing, but yet you're able to transcend your mind and like go with that vehicle. Is that kind of like how it works?
Yeah, that was really beautifully said. Like that the mantra helps you to transcend the left brain and move into the right. It does help you to transcend the realm of thinking and move into the realm of being. But this is a really important and nuanced point that I want to underline, because so many people don't ever start meditating or quit because they think that they are failing. I actually dedicated my whole book to anyone who feels like a meditation failure. I'm like, you're not a failure. You just haven't been taught yet. This thing is a skill. And so, even people who've never tried meditation, even people with 0 minutes of training, think that the point is to clear their mind. I just left a client this morning. He is a multi-billionaire. We had like our 5th session, and like, no matter how many times I said it, he was just like committed to the fact that he had to like push the thoughts away. And he'd never studied meditation. He's in his late 70s, and he's convinced that the point is to clear the mind. And so I was just helping him to see and helping him to liberate this idea that like, actually the mind thinks involuntarily, just like the heart beats involuntarily, right? Your mind thinks involuntarily, just like your heart beats involuntarily. So trying to give the brain a command to shut up, a command to move away the thoughts, a command to focus is as impactful as trying to give your heart a command to stop beating. It doesn't work. And yet this is the criteria by which everyone is judging themselves and why everyone thinks that they're failing. Now, a lot of what I teach in the course is like, thoughts are not the enemy of Ziva, effort is. Thoughts are not the enemy, effort is. Meaning that if you're focusing and concentrating and trying to clear the mind, then you start using effort. And Ziva is based on something called Nishkam Karma Yoga, which means union attained by action hardly taken, lazy meditation. Right. And so it really feels like a nap sitting up. It's like your head gets weeble wobbly and it feels like so restful. But then again, you don't have that sleep hangover on the other side.
Amazing. Yeah. I know that when I've got into, if I would call it deep meditation, if you were to notice, your head does drop. Like it's like unknowingly it drops. So that's where when I've noticed I've been in meditation, like a deeper meditation. So how many do you know the percentage of people that meditate in the world today? Like is there a
I don't
study?
know the percentage.
Like,
I mean, I know like some rough stats on there's somewhere around like 50 to 60 million people who have downloaded like Calm or Headspace, and they have about 1 million paid users. So it's, it's hard to say of like how many of those 50 to 60 million are using the free app. Again, I would call that mindfulness, not meditation. I know that I think TM has moved somewhere between 6 and 7 million people through their training. But there's not the only ways that you can learn. But I don't know how we would quantify that unless it was like in a census survey or something.
Right. Yeah.
And then if you think about like in Japan or China, like Buddhism, like you wake up and you go to the temple before you go to school, before you go to work. Yeah. So, and it's not so much meditation as it is devotion and prayer. And to me, those are different practices. They're both beautiful, but they're different. They can both throw you into ecstatic states. But I noticed that when you're in the East, like in Japan, certainly, even though there's so many people, there is, it feels like this synchronicity, feels like this sort of like unspoken or unseen flow that everyone is accessing, which feels different to me than in New York City, where it just feels like more frenetic, more chaotic, even though there's just as many people. It's like the way that the traffic moves it doesn't feel in coherence. And the only thing I have to attribute that to is that such a large percent of the population in Japan like goes to the temple as part of their daily practice, even if it's not quote unquote what I would call meditation, but I'm a meditation snob. But it is like quiet, contemplative, devotional time where you're putting your attention on something bigger than you, which you could argue with meditation, even though you're not focusing or like trying to talk to God, you are accessing God. You're accessing what I would call God, meaning that you're transcending like the left brain individuality and moving into that right brain totality. You're getting to identify with the thing that is bigger than your body, the thing that is bigger than your identity. And I like to call it practicing dying, because, if every day, twice a day, you're transcending yourself, your small self wave, and if twice a day you're accessing the big self ocean, and then you get to like bring that with you into your waking state, it changes the lens through which you see everything. And I also like to think that it makes your relationship with death less dramatic, right? It's like, I've been training for this my whole life.
I love how you speak of all that. It's so intriguing, and it makes you want to be able to access these different levels of life and existence, right? So you're inspiring me because I know I'm one of those people that for example, at the beginning of the year, the top of the year, I was consistently meditating every morning. And the past 2 weeks, I've fallen off. And I was
Well, wait, you made it to June. That's good. Or May. That's pretty great. Let's celebrate that.
Yeah.
January, February, March, April, May. That's 5 months.
Yeah. Thank you. Especially because it's new for me. And because I've interviewed so many freaking amazing people on this podcast, the number one consistent thing most of them do is meditate. So I'm like,
That's
okay,
right.
I'm going to listen to the remarkable people that I interview, that there's, it's proven. It's not like something woo woo by any means.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it used to be like, that was my mission when I started Ziva. It was 13 years ago. It was like to rebrand meditation as a productivity tool. And it's like, that's happened now. Thank you, Oprah. Thank you, Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss, when he was on Jimmy Fallon, said that 90% of his podcast guests start their day with meditation. Yeah. And he's interviewing the world's highest performers. Layla Martin, who's, our mutual friend who's been on the show, she had tried to meditate. She studied Tantra in the jungles for 20 years, and she didn't have a daily practice until she did Ziva. Aubrey Marcus, who is a dear friend, he had tried to meditate, but he's like, I didn't really get it until I did Ziva. He's like, now I get it. And so I just want to let anybody off the hook or out of the meditation shame spiral. If you're like, I've tried and I can't commit, if that is your story, there's likely nothing wrong with you. You're just likely doing a meditation style that wasn't designed for you.
That's so great to know. And I think that's encouraging for a lot of people, of course. So we're going to, of course, plug in the show notes, Ziva meditation, so people could definitely jump into your course or be able to learn one-on-one with you, whatever it may be. But yes, for all that. So, the one thing I would love to talk about is, just because I haven't really touched on this with other people I've interviewed, is the biochemical, cellular level impact on our body that meditation does, what happens to our body, because I know obviously Joe Dispenza goes heavy into this topic, and he's studied this, he's proven all the different ways this affects our body on a biochemical level. So if you could touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So a lot of people think that meditation is just a mental tool, right? And people sort of look at it like a bubble bath for your brain, or like a pedicure for your mind. And they think of a cute luxury thing that maybe they'll get around to when they have a bit more time, versus the single most important piece of stress relieving technology that you need to be doing every single day. It's just like the coffee that you drank 2 weeks ago is not going to give you energy today. The Valium that you took yesterday is not going to help you today. Same with meditation, right? You meditated 2 weeks ago, she ain't going to help you today. You got to do it every day. And at Ziva, it's actually twice a day. And the cool thing here is that the benefits are in fact cumulative, right? Because Ziva is not about a state change. We're about a trait change. We're actually about healing and eradicating the entire backlog of stresses from your cellular memory so that you can perform at the top of your game. Right. I want to say that we meditate to get good at life, not to get good at meditation. No one cares really what style of meditation you're doing. The only reason I care what style you're doing is, are you committing or not? And most people who aren't committing are trying to do something that wasn't designed for them. And that's why they think it's hard, or they feel like they're failing and then they quit. They're not getting more time back in their day. So the reason why Ziva gives you so much more time and productivity and more health benefits is this piece where you are getting rid of the stress from your past. Now, what does that mean? How can you have stress from your past? Because we often think of I either feel stress in the now or not at all. It's a sadness or happiness. It feels ephemeral and in the present moment. But stress is different. Every single time you've ever launched into fight or flight, it's left an open window on your brain computer. That is called a premature cognitive commitment, or a PCC, that open window. And by the time the average adult is 20, we have about 10 million of those open windows on your brain computer. And unfortunately, that makes us stupid, sick, and slow. It just does. And we cannot afford to be stupid, sick, and slow as a species right now. I just got back from Antarctica. I went with a bunch of climate scientists and the co-founders of Project Drawdown. And I saw with my own eyes giant sheets of ice melting into the ocean. An ice shelf the size of Los Angeles in the supposedly stable part of Antarctica, which is the refrigerator of our planet, just dropped into the ocean while I was there. It's 70 degrees hotter than it's supposed to be. Climate change is real. It's coming for all of us. And climate doesn't care about your feelings. Climate cares about your actions. And we cannot afford to be stupid, sick, and slow when we are facing the biggest existential crisis we've ever faced to our species. We need all hands on deck, and we need us firing on all cylinders right now. And meaning that we are going to have systemic change to our food, to our energy, to our transport, to our clothing, to our makeup. Like all of it has to be redesigned. Literally all of it. And this is like, it's like bringing the alarm, and the scientists who are there were like, hey, we can change this, right? We don't have to be fatalistic about it, but we have to start right now. We have to start right now. So the point, so like why I'm so passionate about this is because it's very hard to innovate. It's very hard to create if your body is shut down in fight or flight. If your brain is so busy running 10 million irrelevant stress windows, you have very little computing power for the task at hand. Right? This is why people like can't find their phone when it's in their hands, why they can't find their keys when they're stressed out trying to leave the house. They can't remember where their glasses are when it's on top of their head, because the brain is in a trauma response, reviewing all the traumatic things from our past to see how likely they are to happen in the future. So what Ziva does is that we, again, give the body rest that's 5 times deeper than sleep. Now, what happens there is that we de-excite the nervous system. And when you de-excite something, you create order. And when you create order in your cells, all of that trauma, all of that stress can start to come up and out. It's like you start to click X on all of those windows so that you start to have more computing power, more battery power available to you for the task at hand. And this is a big deal, right? This means you're going to be like smarter, faster, healthier, have better sex, make better decisions. So that's that part. I talked a little bit about the corpus callosum already. That's the bridge between the right and left hemispheres of the brain. But the other piece that people don't talk about too much is that when you're stressed, your body launches into fight or flight. People get that. But chemically, what's happening is your digestion floods with acid because it takes a lot of energy to digest your food, and you need that energy to fight or flee the predator. Now, that acid seeps onto your skin, so you don't taste very good if a tiger bites you. And that's what prematurely ages us. You know, when you get the nervous poos, that's your body trying to like evacuate, to be light on your feet, to fight or flee the tiger. Procreation, like sex drive, fertility, all that stuff goes to the back burner. If this meat suit is in danger, we're not worried about making new meat suits. Immune system goes to the back burner, because who cares if you're going to get cancer if, again, your meat suit is in immediate danger. The other things that can happen, like in the moving towards the positive, is that your hippocampus can get 27% bigger. And it's like, think about your bicep. If I were like, hey, this needs to make your bicep 27% bigger, you'd be like, great. Your hippocampus is a lot more important than your bicep, okay? Like, this brain machine is responsible for printing every single cell in your body and making every single decision in your life. So if you're saying, oh, I'm too busy to meditate, what the fuck else are you doing with your time?
Right. Oh, this is so fascinating. I love how you explain everything too, because it gives you really a clear idea of what's going on. Like, it's so fascinating. So what are some tools to get started in that deep relaxation, that body relaxation, so we can effectively get into this meditative state?
Yeah, great question. So look, if people just want like a state change and they want just like a guided audio or something, I actually have a beautiful guided audio for free. They can get it at zivameditation.com, which is lovely. But again, I would put that in the category of mindfulness, where it's just a state change. But if you want to like do this thing that I'm talking about, systematically eradicate the entire backlog of stress from your nervous system, you're going to need a powerful tool, and you're going to need some training and some support for that, which is what we created and what I've spent the last 13 years of my life doing. And I mean, I'm biased, but I would say, like, take a course, find a teacher that you love. If you think I'm a ding dong head, go find somebody else. But if you want to learn from me, then I would go to zivameditation.com, and you could do Ziva online. It's only 15 minutes a day. And then it's going to teach you, it's going to prep you with the mindfulness, so that when you do this like powerful cathartic style of meditation, you have the tools that you need to help you through that. And also you have the community of support to help you through what can be kind of an intense catharsis. You know, you don't like do ayahuasca alone at your home. You know, you have to be with like a trained shaman and a community of people. Now, Ziva is not as intense. Well, the online course is not as intense as ayahuasca. The in-person can be, but that's why it's in person.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So as far as, because I have not, as we mentioned early on, I have not heard anybody talk about meditation having a contribution to improving our sex life, our relationships. I mean, I get it. If you're not stressed, then obviously you're going to show up differently in your relationships. But
Yeah.
how do you explain how it actually improves your sex life, most importantly?
Yeah. So, I mean, a million trillion ways, but I'll talk to like the main culprits, right? Like the number one reason that cohabitating couples in the US don't have as much sex as they want is that they're tired. Number one reason they say, I'm just too tired, right? I'm sure that everyone can relate to that. Like how many times you wanted to have sex, but by the time you like get in bed, it's 9:30, you have to get up at 6 a.m. You're like, oh, honey, I love you, but good night. And so if you did Ziva at like 4:30 p.m., 15 minutes, it's giving your body rest that's 5 times deeper than sleep. That's the equivalent of over an hour-long nap. So imagine taking an hour-long nap at 5 p.m. You're going to have more gas in the tank by the time it comes around for sexy time. Or, even in the morning, a lot of us have like a huge cortisol spike in the morning, which is normal and natural. But if you are prone to anxiety and then you wake up in the morning and your cortisol spikes, even though your sex drive might be highest in the morning, now you're like spinning and in your head and super stressed. Now, interestingly, if women's cortisol levels are too high, they become physically incapable of orgasm. And if men's adrenaline levels are too high, it constricts the vascular system and they become incapable of erection. So this isn't just about like chakras and energy and accessing God. I mean, all of that stuff happens too, but this is like quite literally, if you are too stressed, you won't be able to get an erection or you won't be able to have an orgasm. And I hear this time and time again. So many women who are like, I had my first orgasm the week after the course. I was able to orgasm vaginally after I started this training. I just actually, again, I had a private client who was saying like, these women feel like they feel like I'm in my 20s and he's like in his 70s. So, even in his, like, it's just so exciting. And then for me personally, I've noticed a big, I mean, that's like a whole separate story because it's, I had like very mild sexual trauma, like on the scale of sexual trauma, mine was not quote unquote, like not bad, but there's like capital T trauma and lowercase t trauma, but our bodies only experience, it only knows what it has experienced. And so until I was like in my late 20s, early 30s, I would say that my body and brain were like separated. I like learned how to disassociate and I learned how to like protect my heart with my mind. And so it took a lot of therapy and meditation to sort of reconnect them. And now it feels like they're so in coherence with each other, because this is one of the things that happens when we meditate, is that our brain waves and our heart waves start to get into coherence with each other. And here's the beautiful thing. If you were in coherence with yourself, it's so much easier to get into coherence with someone else. And this is what good sex is. It's two people getting into coherence with each other. And then you make a third thing. This is Tantra, right? It's like you start to create the Ka body, you create this third energetic thing, and then you're both feeding the third thing. Now that's very hard to do if you're like stuck in stress and anxiety and self-doubt and self-criticism and like, oh my gosh, am I to this? And does my breath smell? And like, did I shave my toes? Layla's email came out this week. She's like, are you in your head thinking about that? I thought it was so funny. Versus remembering that you are a part of the universe and the universe is a part of you, that your partner is a part of the universe and the universe is a part of them. And like, as you get to quite literally reunite, right, you are unioning into this thing, which is almost a physical manifestation of what happens in meditation. Right? Like in meditation, it's like the two becomes one again, right? Like your individuality gets to remind itself that it is actually totality. The wave gets to remember that it is also the ocean. And this is happening in the physical form when we make love, because two bodies are merging into this other body, or however many bodies you have, provided that everyone's getting into coherence with each other.
So beautiful. So you were talking about that you have become really passionate about more of the sexual aspect and moving into that. So can you kind of share what are the new things you're discovering and how are you integrating this into your business right now? Because I know, as you mentioned, you're good friends with Layla Martin, at which She's been on the podcast, a very, very popular episode. Sex is a very popular subject.
Turns out sex sells, you guys. I don't know if anyone's heard that.
I think there's so many people that, are really wanting to learn more about sex. Either they're interested to have better sex, or they've been not having sex and they want sex back. Like, who knows? I don't know. It's a popular topic.
It is. I mean, I do think we're in the middle of a new sexual revolution.
Yes.
And I think partly COVID did that. It's like COVID like put a chastity belt on everyone. Like not only were we were socially distancing, we were physically distancing. And there was the jokey meme going around that was like, COVID's under control, but STDs are through the roof.
So
it was
funny.
like, once we could like be back in contact with each other, everyone just wanted to be in a lot of contact. I think that's part of it. I also really think that it's this, the world is facing more stress and fear than we've ever faced in our lifetime, in our generation. Certainly there's been more on the planet since humans have been around. But like with that fear, like if you subscribe to the belief that the only antidote to fear is love, right, then the more powerful the fear, the more powerful the love. Also, if you subscribe to this idea that everything in the universe is magnetized to each other with this erotic force, like the actual eros force is the thing that magnetizes the parts of an atom, right? The parts of a molecule. It is that draws humans to each other, that draws the planets to the sun. It has a gravitational pull to it. And so so you could go like as literal and as sexual, or you could go as philosophical as you want with this topic. But what I know for sure is that if you have shut down your life force, which that's what sexuality is, it's your life force. And if you don't have access to that, or worse, if it has been abused or traumatized and you've had to like protect yourself from it or guard yourself from it, you simply aren't using all of your creative potential. Right. And that's what I want for people. I want people to be as happy and as joyous and as blissful as they desire to be. And I want people to have access to their entire capacity of life force. And so some tools that have been helping me is exactly this, like just checking in. Like if you're going to have a personal sex practice or with someone else, just checking in when you start and being like, hey, what's your level of charge right now? What's your level of life force charge? So it's like, we're just sort of making the language quite simple, right? Not like, are you turned on? How sexy are you feeling? Do you want to make love with me? Like it's not about the other person. It's you checking in with you. What's my level of charge right now? And you're like, I'm at like a 2. What's your level of charge? I'd say I'm at like a 7. Okay, great. That's our starting point. That has nothing to do with you, your performance, how much I love you. If your breath smells, it's just like where I'm starting from. Mm-hmm. And then if we can become adept at turning up and down our levels of charge in and of ourselves, then it allows us to meet our partners, right? It's like looking at a thermostat. It's like, oh, it's 78 degrees. I'd like to cool it down a little bit. Oh, it's 68 degrees. It's too chilly for me. I want to turn it up a little bit. And so without judgment or shame or like the guilt, I should be turned on and I'm not. It's just like, no, I'm going to read my energy like a thermostat. I'm going to learn how to turn it up or down. And I think that the meditation practice helps you to be able to turn it up or down. And it helps you to be able to check in with yourself and even hear or feel where you are on the scale. So that's one tool that I really love. The other sort of superpower that I've gotten as of late is like, because I have a long distance lover and like much of our interaction was happening like via a phone, which by the way, I had never even had phone sex before. Like I was like, whoa, no way. I couldn't possibly, like it was too embarrassing to me. And now like, there's this like massive 5D cosmic, like we've grown our energy bodies big enough to where it doesn't even feel like it's long distance anymore. And there's something quite spiritual about that as well, like interacting with someone who isn't physically there. And we sort of created this way to almost become like avatars of each other, right? Where it's like, I would touch my face and he would like, as if he's touching my face, so it's a very connected, very coherent interaction, even though our physical bodies aren't there. So that's been interesting as well. And then sex magic, which is so beautiful, which is a practice that I learned from Layla, which is really like manifesting on rocket fuel. So I've been teaching manifesting for many years, which is simply you consciously creating a life you love. So you getting clear about what you want to create. And with sex magic, yes, you hold the vision, right? You're clear on what it is that you want to manifest. And then you start to build your charge. You start to build that life force and you move it up through every chakra. And then at the moment of peak pleasure, like you send that energy out through the top of your head to the vision, to the dream. And that's been a really powerful practice as well, for me personally and inside of relationship. And then sometimes in community, which has been awesome.
So how does that happen? How do you use that sexual energy to charge up your whole body to then manifest? What does that look like? Like,
So you
example.
can do it. So like what Layla calls it is like, it's like hot, cool, warm, or hot, like the ways that you can do sex magic, meaning cool would just be breath, right? That you're moving your breath, you're moving your body, and you're sort of like building that energy through the breath and through the movement and visualizing each chakra. And Layla has beautiful courses on this. And please go to laylamartin.com and check out, like, she's a masterful teacher at this. Now, warm would be that you're sort of like caressing yourself and kind of like touching your body and starting to build that eros, build that erotic charge in your body. And then hot would be actually like manual stimulation, that you're masturbating and building that sexual pleasure. But while you're doing that, you're moving it quite intentionally from the root chakra into the sacral chakra, into the solar plexus, into the heart, into the throat, third eye. And then once you reach the crown, then if orgasm is available to you, you would then sort of like at the moment of peak pleasure, sort of send that energy and that dream up into the cosmos. And then in that beautiful afterglow, where your electromagnetic field is bigger, like your magnet quite literally gets bigger because your heart is so open, because you flooded your brain and body with oxytocin and adrenaline and norepinephrine and dopamine and serotonin. It's like you have a perfect cocktail of bliss chemistry in your body to imprint that desire from a state of feeling great. And your electromagnetic field is bigger. So it's like you quite literally magnetize the thing to you. And it requires specificity, and ambiguity is like the death of all dreams. I just want more money. I want a boyfriend. I want a job. It's like going to a restaurant and ordering food.
Right.
You have to be specific, right? And so when we're specific about it, and then we can feel it from this space of being connected, it's a much more powerful practice.
Wow. Yeah. I'm curious how many people are interested in something like this. If you were to be able to really like manifest everything, but through a blissful state and through your own blissful state, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the trick. It's manifesting is about feeling good, like period, full stop.
Yeah.
Like if you're stressed out thinking about the thing you want to manifest, you're not playing the game. You're playing a different game.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it sounds so fascinating. So I am assuming there's going to be a lot more resources coming from you soon. And as far as sex magic, it sounds so
and I'd actually like love to hear from people. Like if people are commenting on this, or, if you're sharing it on social media, like I want to know from people, like, what do they want? What do they need help with specifically as it relates to meditation and sex, stress and sex, manifesting in sexual energy, blocks, old trauma, like I've been doing this stuff for like 22 years. And I had the gift of doing a private with Aubrey Marcus and Bailana Marcus. And it was my first sort of like 7-day sacred sexuality private immersion. And it was such a gift because I started to realize like how many tools I have in my medicine bag. And so now I'm very much I'm going to take a sabbatical soon, and I'm just going to like make space to play and do research and development and bring in guinea pigs and just see like what nature's trying to use me for. But part of that is speaking to the need of the time and knowing what people want help with.
Yeah, I did listen to that episode, as I was mentioning, with Aubrey Marcus, and I think it was almost maybe hour and a half, 2-hour episode. And it was in action, sharing some of the things. And I know he mentioned like he's never experienced anything like this. And it was quite fascinating. That's why I was so intrigued to have you on, because again, meditation we've all heard, but we want to know like really why should we, no matter what, be meditating? And you really share a lot of the background and also like the tangible things that are actually happening to your body. I think it's really fascinating that obviously it wipes out past trauma, present stress, that's important, and then also future in manifesting. So that's really fascinating. And then also, so many people struggle with gut health. And so if meditation is truly, helping as well our gut health, like that's fascinating in itself that I didn't even know about. So It's really intriguing.
And that just comes from the, like, when we are in fight or flight, the first thing that happens is digestion floods with acid. I'm actually writing a chapter in Dr. Vincent Pedre's new book. He's like the gut doctor, if you will, America's gut doctor.
Yeah. Yeah.
God bless him for that title. But it's like, again, if you're in fight or flight, like everything gets disconnected, and then we get inflamed from all that acidic stress chemistry being dumped into the body.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had him on my podcast, and
Oh, you have?
Yeah. I love talking gut health, because again, I think so many, especially in America, struggle with it. It's the same thing. Like sex and gut health is like a popular episode.
I mean, they're right next to each other, right? It's like the belly and the sex are just right next to each other.
Yeah, it's so true. So what's this love bomb you talk about? I've heard you mention this. Can you?
Oh, yeah. The love bomb is so beautiful. I haven't done it in a long time.
Oh.
I did this originally for, I don't remember where I did it originally, but I'd say this is sort of just like my take on the metta meditation, where I would recommend doing it after you've done the Ziva technique, like in that state of connection to yourself. And actually I can just lead it for everybody. I mean, so I'd say just go and close your eyes and take a big breath in. And as you exhale, feeling your body soften, your heart open, just imagining two beautiful golden cords shooting down through your root, connecting you to the very core of the earth, grounding you, energizing you, charging you up. And as you inhale, breathing into your heart, imagining it growing and expanding and softening. And as you exhale, letting these beautiful golden cords get brighter and stronger, connecting you all the way down and grounding you into the earth. Really good. And from this space, I invite you to imagine one person that you love so much, person that melts your heart, that lights you up, person that you love sitting 3 feet away from you. And see their face, bravely looking deep into their eyes. And feel them connecting with you. Allow yourself to be seen. Allow yourself to be penetrated by their gaze. And noticing how that feels to imagine seeing and being seen. And as you inhale, breathing the love that you have for this person into your heart, breathing it into every single cell in your body, remembering how much joy and love they bring to you. And as you exhale, imagine blasting every cell in their body with this beautiful healing frequency of love, as if you could wrap them in your heart, as if you could saturate every single cell in their body with your love. And remembering why you love them, how good it feels to love them. And again, inhaling, expanding your heart, cracking it wide open. And as you exhale, imagine sending so much love from your heart to theirs, from every cell in your body into every cell in their body. Really good. And now pulling the lens of your awareness out. And imagine sending love to someone who needs it. It could be a friend, an ex, a boss, a coworker. You don't have to feel love or animosity. You don't have to feel any specific way, just someone in your life who you know could use some love right now. Imagine them sitting 3 feet away from you and looking into their eyes and being brave enough to feel their vulnerability, their pain, their sadness, their anger. Knowing that you don't have to hold it, but you can feel it with them for a moment. And allowing them to feel your love. Remembering that love is a renewable resource. You cannot run out of it. The more you give it, the more you make. So breathing into your heart, letting your heart expand, letting your heart fill with love. And as you exhale, imagine wrapping this person with love, saturating every single cell in their body with this healing, nourishing frequency of love. As if you're wrapping them in your arms and holding them, letting them know that they are safe. They are loved. They're perfect exactly as they are. Really good. And taking one more big, delicious inhale. And this time expanding your heart big enough to encapsulate the entire planet Earth. And as you exhale, imagine blasting every living being on the planet with this beautiful frequency of love. Sending it out like a shockwave, navigating the planet. One more inhale, breathing in the frequency of love from the very source of love. And as you exhale, imagine sending it out to every person, place, thing, and being on this planet. And know that as you send it out, it is simultaneously coming back to you. So making sure that you open your heart big enough to receive it. This is the eros, the giving and the receiving of love. It is why we are here. It is why you incarnated. So allowing yourself to enjoy both the frequency of giving and the frequency of receiving. Really good. And taking one more cleansing breath, bringing your awareness back into your body, into this room, into this moment in time. Moving your hands and your feet. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, you can start to slowly, gently open the eyes.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. Oh my goodness, that was good. It's
honestly, people could do that like before sex. Like if you were to meditate with your partner and then do that, eyes closed or eyes open, like there's no way your sex is not going to be better.
right. Oh my goodness. Yeah. My boyfriend's actually away in Thailand for 2 months. So that
Wow.
was really amazing. And I'm here, also spending time with his daughter that needs love as well. So it was just a really great visual, if you want to say.
Great.
So thank you for that. Thanks for giving us that. That was much needed. Wow. Okay. So that was a little preview of the love bomb. And so I think that's a good way to wrap this up. My God, I'm like tired now. No,
We go
I'm
meditate. This would be a perfect time to meditate.
like,
mid-afternoon.
I feel zen right now, if you want to say. But yeah, that was so beautiful. Gosh, there's so much to learn. I will definitely plug everything in the show notes. And of course, even your book, what was
Stress
it?
less, accomplish more. Yeah.
Yes. And just everybody. I mean, I think this is, yes.
I was just going to say like the best place for people to go would just be zivameditation.com/podcast, because then they'll get an awesome free gift, a free guided visualization, and a masterclass on like all the science. And then they can dive into this training if they feel inspired.
Thank you so much. Yes, I will definitely plug that all in the show notes. And where can people best find you besides obviously Ziva Meditation?
Yeah. So I'd say we're all over social. I think Instagram is our most active social media, and that's just at Ziva Meditation. And then we have a really beautiful online community on Facebook. It's just called the Ziva Community. And my team and I are in there every day helping people, because that's really like for people who read the book, that's where we support you in the practice.
Very nice. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for everything. So I always close off with a very important question that I ask all my guests. So if you were to share a piece of wisdom that you feel anybody needs to know right now, a life lesson that you've learned through your journey, what would that one piece of wisdom be that is needed for us?
Wow, there's so many that are coming through right now. But the one that my therapist and I were talking about yesterday is that it's like, it's a different way than I usually say it, but I'll say his words is like, when your lessons come, they have a certain price tag. And if you don't learn them, the price tag gets higher and higher. And I've always said that, you have an opportunity to learn your lessons on the spiritual plane. And if you don't, then they get more expensive and take longer because you have to learn them on the psychological plane. You have to pay a therapist years and years of therapy. And if you don't learn them there, they get really expensive and really slow because then you have to learn them on the physical plane and you have to cut it out as cancer. So it's like, it would behoove you to just go ahead and meditate and learn the lesson on the spiritual plane. It's way faster and cheaper than letting it show up as actual physical disease or nature giving you a true roadblock.
Perfect. I think life is just meant to teach us lessons, and exactly, they will get louder and louder until we learn it. So rather catch it at the whisper, right? What has been your biggest lesson? Like if you were to pull out, one of those lessons that you had to learn.
Yeah. I'd say a big one for me over the past few years is learning to trust myself and also learning to trust my mastery. And that's been like, some of it is born, but some of it is very hard earned. And I have a tendency to want to like deflect and defer my power and give it away, or defer to someone else's decision and sublimate even. And it's confusing to people because it's like people can see and feel like the magnitude of the decades of work that I've done. And so when I play small, it actually is a lie. And it creates discoherence, and it makes people not trust me. Whereas if I were just to be like honest and own it and be unapologetically in my power, heart open, hey, I'm God and so are you. Do you know what I mean? Like, hey, I am a divine being and so are you. Then it's like everybody wins. And so that's been a big lesson for me, is just trusting, really learning to trust myself. And I'd say most recently, the level of mastery comes from just knowing the difference, being able to discern the difference between what is divine guidance and what is my preference, and ferociously protecting the divine guidance and being super adaptable and flexible on what is my personal preference.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's one thing that a lot of people struggle with is really being able to trust themselves. You know? Yeah.
Yeah. I actually made watercolors for myself, and I put it in my jewelry drawer and my underwear drawer and my sock drawer and on my mirror. And I never do that. Like, I'm not that kind of a like affirmation kind of gal. But it was just when I was going through my divorce, it was like I started to question everything. And I was so triggered and in such an intense experience for so long that it was like I had to just constantly remind myself to like, be in my heart and tell the truth and trust myself.
Yeah, that's great that you set up reminders for yourself. So amazing. Okay, Emily, this has been so phenomenal. I thank you so much for your expertise and your time. Everything you shared with us today was so informative that just everybody needs to learn more. And of course, I'm going to do your course. That's for sure.
I would love that. Yeah. And then if you do it, what might be cool to like record like an intro, of like, hey, Emily, like I ended up doing it and here's my experience. And then, I think that's sort of a fun way to share with your audience.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I'm so intrigued and interested, and I want that, all that stuff you mentioned. I need all that.
Yeah, it's the good stuff.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Emily. I appreciate you.
My pleasure. All right. Bye everyone. Bye, Erica.